Hello and welcome to section 3. In this section, we'll be discussing define scope. In this section, we'll explore the define scope process, a critical step in project scope management. Defining the scope involves clearly documenting and understanding what the project will and will not encompass. By the end of this section, you should be able to comprehend the purpose of the define scope process, identify the inputs, tools and techniques, as well as the outputs of this process. And lastly, you should be able to recognize the significance of a well-defined project scope. Alright, so if you're ready to define the scope of your project, let's delve into the section. Now, what is the purpose of the define scope process? The define scope process focuses on developing a detailed project scope statement. It provides a clear and precise description of what the project will achieve and what it wants. Okay? So as a project manager, you want to be crystal clear about the objective of your project. You want to know what this project is going to achieve at the end of the day and what it will not. Okay, that will help you to keep your focus right on target. Okay. Now, what are the inputs of this process? Firstly, we have the project management plan, which provides guidance on how the scope will be defined and documented. And then you have the project charter. This contains high-level project description and the objectives. Next, you have the requirements documentation. This includes the details of the requirements, alright, which you have gathered from stakeholders. And then next, you have the stakeholder register. This identifies all the stakeholders that are involved in your project. And then also you have the enterprise environmental factors, which include the external factors influencing scope definition. Also, you have the organizational process assets, which includes historical data, templates and guidelines for scope definition. Now, what are the tools and techniques that we use to define the scope of our project? Firstly, expert judgment, which involves consulting experts to define the scope effectively. So you have different subject matter experts who are going to look at the scope of a project and then define it from their perspectives. Data analysis, which includes analyzing data to ensure that the scope statement aligns with requirements. And then you have decision making, alright, which is key regarding scope boundaries. Okay, you have to be making decisions at every point in time regarding your scope boundaries. Product analysis. This involves analyzing the product features and its characteristics. Alternatives identification. These include identifying various options for project scope. Last but not the least, you have facilitation techniques, and these includes group meetings and workshops for scope definition. So all these are your tools and techniques which you use for defining your project scope. So what are the outputs of the define scope process? Firstly, you have your project scope statement, which is a detailed document that describes the project scope objectives, constraints, assumptions, as well as acceptance criteria. So this is very much all encompassing. Okay. Second, you have the project document updates, and this includes updates to various project documents based on scope definition. Okay, so these all make up the outputs of our defined scope process. Okay, here we go. What are the key takeaways that we need to be mindful of in this section? The key takeaways from the defined scope process is that it results in a well-defined project scope statement, which serves as the foundation for the entire project. This statement includes the project objectives, constraints, assumptions, and acceptance criteria, providing a clear and shared understanding of what the project will deliver. The defined scope process is critical for establishing a clear and well understood project scope, which serves as the foundation for all project work. It ensures that all stakeholders have a common understanding of what the project will and will not deliver, thus reducing the risk of scope-related issues during the project execution. So these are the very important details that you don't need to miss out in the defined scope process. Alright, so I hope you got a lot of value there. I'll see you in the next section. Cheers.